Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Wednesday night. We're back with the Evermore podcast. We are in a dancing mood tonight, so put on your dancing shoes, you sexy little swines. We're going to bust a move. I'm joined by a couple of lads here who love to cut a rug on the dance floor. He's got the moves like Jagger, and he's got stats like Bill Gates. We've got Mark there to the side, and he doesn't stop till he gets enough. We've got Carl in the house. How are we doing, lads? All right?
Good evening, mate. No one wants to see me dance.
I've seen it. I can confirm. But we're still buzzing. Everyone's been doing the Dan Burn, I'm sure, at work today, and they're cutting a bit of a move, or at least trying to anyway. But we're still on cloud nine after last night, so we're going to get stuck right into this in a minute. So just before we do a little bit of housekeeping, if you haven't already, please click the like and subscribe button. We'd love you to come and join us. We're on 2,341 subscribers, I think we are at the minute. So we've had loads of you click that button recently. We really appreciate it. Mark's even updated the graphic just for you. So well done, Mark. So it's great to have everybody on board. There's loads more room for you, all free content at Evermore. We don't charge you a penny for this. We just love talking about this Mint Club, and we're going to get stuck into that in a minute. We are live as always, so join us in the comments. We've already got one in there. I think Gibbo is in the house. Even to you, Gibbo, good to see you in the comments. I'm sure we've got plenty more of you coming in and joining us momentarily. So let's get stuck right into this then. Mark, I'm going to come to you because we're a couple of 12-year-old schoolboys and we came up with this one yesterday, didn't we? I don't think we were the only ones, mind you. We might have been the first ones to do it, but we weren't the only ones. We've got a semi on. How a class is it to say we've got a semi on live on YouTube, mate? Say it loud and proud.
Yeah, I'm now, like you said last night when you were live after the match, I'm now concerned with the dodgy comments that come in, so just be careful. It's funny because my original thought for last night was Burns night. You know, it's January. Dan Burns scores. I thought that was all right, and then when you came up with that, I was like, yeah, you win completely, absolutely win. It's just
because I'm 12.
Oh well, I'm the biggest kid going. As soon as I saw it, I laughed. I was like, yeah, it's got to be that. But it was an exceptional performance last night from minute one. I mean, literally from minute one. You could have been ahead after 44 seconds. And, Dan Burn caps it off with just a wonderful finish, showing the rest of them how it's done, because they'd struggled to hit the target up until that point, really. So it was, it was just a phenomenal performance.
Absolutely. And in case you don't know, Lee's just reminding you, he's from Blythe. Yes, he is, Carl. He's from Blythe. You'll never, ever beat Dan Burn. I mean, we're going to talk about Dan Burn a little bit more in a minute, Carl. But obviously, we all watched it on the TV at home, didn't we? The live boys were there. Lee was one of the live Evermore crew that was there. And the atmosphere was just electric, mate, wasn't it? Even on the TV at home, the scarves, the flags, mate. It's just brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I think, obviously, I was lucky enough to get tickets to go to the game after the takeover. And the atmosphere was unbelievable when before the game, and then when Callum Wilson scored against Spurs. I think last night, I think it just goes to show, someone said, like, if there's any players or agents or whatever who are currently in talks with Newcastle, they just had to look at the atmosphere last night to think, wow, like, it was just unbelievable. And yeah, just sitting back, it just makes you buzzing. I mean, like I say, I went to sleep last night, and probably like everybody else, as Lee's put in the chat, I just had that tune in my head. He's from Blood. I couldn't switch off. I couldn't switch off for ages. I was just watching clips on like Twitter of the goal, and even how the commentators on the radio, Newcastle and NUFC TV, how they just went ballistic. And I don't think, in terms of Dan Burn, it was just like a fairy tale for him, and you couldn't be any more happier. Especially when we went into the changing room, and you obviously seen Eddie Howe look a bit like, oh crap, the cameras are here, which would be interesting if it then spanned into some sort of documentary, because I think it would probably be one of the best ones that they've ever did, because our club's just mint anyway, innit?
Absolutely. I mean, in terms of Dan Burn, obviously as a player, we'll talk about as a player, but clearly he's a massive character as well, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But not just the game. There's a thing doing the rounds on, I think it was for Amazon Prime, Make Me Smile with Sean Longstaff and Dan Burn with the go motion cameras on. And it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. The absolute class. Just two Geordie lads, just living their best life, playing for the club that we all love. But going back to the football side, I thought Sean had a decent game as well. While I mentioned Longstaff, apart from he doesn't take the chances again and he gets a bit of shit from it. But, you're right with Dan Burn, Carl. I mean, I've heard it said as well a few times, but I don't think there's any player that typifies, the passion and the pride of playing for Newcastle United right now more than Dan Burn. I mean, he's not the best footballer in the world, is he? But I mean, his career, if you look at his career, this is a lad who was released by Newcastle United as a young kid, probably was devastated, probably thought his dreams were shattered. All his family are season ticket holders. He used to sit in the Gallagher himself. I wouldn't want to sit behind him, mind you, but he sat in the Gallagher himself. And he's gone full circle. He's gone in lower leagues. He's worked his way back up. He's worked his nuts off to get this move back to his hometown club. And he isn't just showing up and saying, I'm the token Geordie. He's putting in the graft. He's putting in the performances. When he burst forward, honest to God, for a second, thought it was Sean Longstaff. I thought, oh my God, it's finally clicked. Sean Longstaff's going to score a worldie. And I looked, oh shit, he's about 3 foot taller. It's Dan Burn. And then he scores with his right foot mark. I mean, that's his standard leg, man, as well. I mean, he had no right to score, really, did he?
It was just, I put in our chat, didn't I? It was calmness personified. When he got to that point, you were almost thinking, what's going to happen? And it was just the calmest side foot into the corner. It was just, I think I pretty much thought the same as he burst into the box. It was, bloody hell, he's high up the pitch. And it was just, he ran through the couple of players and they've got no chance of being able to outmuscle him because they're about 3 foot shorter than him. But look, it was one of those. It's one of those moments where you go, yeah, I watched it because
iconic, really, isn't it? If you think about it, in the cup as well, it's iconic.
It's the first. It takes essentially that takes him through the first League Cup semi-final since 1976. It's the first semi-final since 2005.
Yeah,
I think it was the FA Cup. Like I said, he's a hometown lad. He was one he's darted around a bit. He never really thought that he was going to end up back here, especially not sort of following the takeover. He's absolutely taken his chance. And the look of just glee on his face was he couldn't stop smiling for the rest of the game. It was just brilliant.
I mean, Lee's got a good point there, Carl, as well. The closest in terms of emotions was Miggy's first goal against Palace, wasn't it, when he broke that duck and everyone was just so happy for him. And you could see what I loved about the goal as well was how Burn went knee slid and every single one of them were just round him. They looked even happier than he did for scoring the goal, Carl, didn't they? That's the team unity, man, isn't it? Just being happy for you. You don't get that from people like Ronaldo kicking off when someone's nicked the ball off them. It's just great to see, man.
Well, it wasn't just that. Obviously, a lot of them went running over to him, but it was like Bruno went to the Gallagher, just like screamed like an absolute nutcase. Like
he's a maniac.
He does. He was on one last night anyway. Bruno
he was after Perez, when he was after Perez.
Yeah, I think like what Mark said then about like how he just was so calm in terms of the finish. I thought the game started in carbon copy fashion about how we played Leicester at Boxing Day, how we flew out the blocks. And I think the difference why we weren't like 2-0 up after 7-8 minutes then is because exactly what Mark said. Longstaff obviously hit the ball into there. Bruno had a couple of chances. And if they had just actually been a little bit more calmer, then we could have actually scored. We could have been 2 or 3 up by half time. And I thought both goals last night were both really calm finishes. Joe Linton's goal was brilliant, and I thought Joe Linton was like unbelievable last night. Along with he was everywhere.
He was class. I mean, that's a great point Carl's making there, Mark. Poor Joe Linton's goals be lost in the melee of the Dan Burn madness. The whole play, the pass from Miggy. If you had said, I said this on the post-match, if you had said 18 months ago, if you had said Miggy Almiron's going to thread the ball through the eye of the needle and Joe Linton's going to finish first time without breaking stride, they would have locked you in the loony bin. Unbelievable.
No one would have believed it. Honestly, you look at that and you think, where's that been hiding for the best part of 3 years? It's just, that finish is sublime. And you're right, it's absolutely lost in the whole thing with Dan Burn because of what that sort of means. But yeah, Joe was exceptional all night. He just bullies people, and he does it in the right way. He doesn't go through them. He doesn't foul a massive amount. He bodies people out of the way, doesn't he? He's
just too big and strong anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But he's starting to add a little bit more and more each time.
Yeah.
We said sort of the start of the season, when we looked in the end of last season, that he's done an exceptional job. The question mark was always around his passing ability. That's starting to come. It is getting better at sort of games going. It's still not Bruno-esque. It's probably never going to be.
The touch for Burns' goal, that little just round the corner touch, brilliant pass.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is it. And this comes, I think, a lot of it with confidence, because the more and more confident he gets, the more willing he is to do those things, and they'll come off. And it helps his Brazilian, so naturally he's got it in his locker anyway. But yeah, he was outstanding last night, and was absolutely my man of the match.
Mine too.
And probably just above a couple, because I thought Willock was exceptional last night too.
Yeah, it goes under the radar with Willock, I think, Carl, doesn't it? I said this in the post-match as well. I know you're a big fan of Willock, but Willock has this totally underestimated pace that I think other players even don't think about. They watch him, he's a bit gangly and that, and they think, oh, I've got him, he's fine. And he just puts these burners on, and he just finds this pace out of nowhere. And you can't deal with him when it's like that, can you?
I'd like to actually see what his pace is like with the ball dribbling. Because I would like to bet that there's not very many players in the Premier League that can run with the ball as fast as Willock can. And I was going to add another point to this, is when you add in how well the left-hand side is playing now, Burn, who's a solid 7 out of 10 every match, if not more. Willock's performing exceptionally well on the left, and then obviously Joe Linton and him are interchanging from in the middle to being on the left, because I thought Willock was actually a little bit more on the left than Joe Linton.
He stretched them really far, didn't he? He stretched them wide,
which is what we'd said on in the group chat. But he has a controversial one, like I always like to do. Like, is there a place back in that side the way that left hand side's playing for Saint-Maximin, or do you say you can get 40-50 million for him because he's still got a bit of a decent stock, and then you obviously put that back in the FFP, because obviously especially if we are as rumours are coming down with Maddison's odds shortening to join Newcastle, if you brought him in, then I just don't know where he fits into any house team. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Just to point on Roger there. Yeah, that burst of pace from Isak at the Gallagher, just you could see that was there. I mean, he's obviously trying to get back to fitness, but just that little bit of insight, you just went, wow! Like, when that kid gets sharp, he is going to be scary. And we'll come on to Maddison and transfer talk as well, but it could be interesting because other players coming in might mean, rather than having a right and a left and a central player, you might have somebody who slips in behind two strikers, and then you play Wilson and Isak. So that could possibly change as well. We're still playing 4-3-3. We've got Kiki in the comments. How you doing, Kiki? Good to see you. And Ash is just saying, get rid of ASM. I thought ASM, one thing he did do when he come on, Mark, I think he did try and whip the ball in a couple of times. Yeah. He was looking across the ball. I mean, to be fair, it's not really Isak's game, headers, so it was kind of the wrong ball in many ways. But you could tell Eddie Howe has said to him, get it in the box, get it in the mixer, don't piss around with it, don't do too many step overs, don't do too many tricks. I think people made a good point that we were 2-0 up, we were cruising. Leicester were piss poor. I watched some of the Leicester fans on a pod before. Yeah. I do feel a bit sorry for them because they've been up here and they're coming right down. They've got no confidence in Rodgers. They're worried about losing their best players. So it wasn't good for Leicester. But that was a kind of game Maxi could have come on and done his daft tricks and took the piss and got the crowd cheering, but he didn't do it. So do you think something's happened? Something's clicked a bit with Maxi, Mark? Oh, you there, Mark?
No, he looked hungry when he came on. You get me all right because my Wi-Fi's gone a bit dodgy.
No, you got you just went. You did a Jacob Murphy there. You did a Jacob Murphy. You froze.
Look, he did look hungry when he came on, and I know we were talking about him on Monday night, weren't we? And kind of the thought was, well, he come on and prove me completely wrong. And to a point, he did. He came on and he he put a bit of work, and he tried to do the right thing. You do wonder where the place is for him in that side, because
Carl's got a point.
In terms of the way that everything has gone, I can't see him pushing Joe Linton and Willock out of that sort of left-hand side when they interchange. I don't, and he can't do that as well. So in a game, you can interchange where you could start Joe further forward, and then, if you want, and particularly the game that springs to mind is the Villa game, where Joe started a little bit further forward, and then you brought him back and he bullied the midfield, but Willock went back into that sort of wide left spot, and the fact that they can interchange at any point gives you a lot more flexibility in the side than St. Maximin can, because he can't come into that midfield and do that role. So is that his stumbling block in getting back into the side?
I think I remember a comment what Eddie Howe said about evolution in terms of the team. It's all about obviously the evolution of how they play. And the only way I can see, Mark, that he would get back in and be regular is if the actual, as Chris said before, the formation changes slightly. He would be devastating, in my opinion, if he played just behind the striker, where he's got a little bit more freedom, where he can
in a free role. Yeah. You couldn't mark him, could you? You'd be having a nightmare against him.
And he doesn't have to rely on defending as much, because he can almost leave him up. But it's just whether or not that would be an Eddie Howe way of thinking, because, like you say, if we are to strengthen the midfield, which rumours are that we are possibly looking to do that, then it for me it sort of looks a little bit like curtains, in my opinion, that it's probably time for him to to maybe move on. And as much as I like him when he's fit, he frustrates us because he doesn't do it enough. And now, because we're playing him, we've all said about this interchangeable left-hand side, I prefer Joe Linton in the middle, if I'm being honest. And if Willock's
he's better
doing what he's doing now, but it's all about the team, isn't it, at the end of the day? So
for me, we'll close on this one, then we'll shift on to the next section just after we talk about our amazing manager. But for me, I agree with you, Carl. And do you know what? Fully fit, if you give me those three players fully fit, and you say one's got to go, Willock and Joe Linton are by far more productive for this football team right now than ASM is, even all fully fit, on top of their game, every single one of them. For me, I definitely think that those two need to play. If you throw another player into the mix in midfield, which we'll come on to in a minute, I think that so Maxi isn't in the equation, and he's the kind of player that wants to start every week. He's probably not happy that he isn't at the minute, but he is a sellable asset. So we'll certainly be keeping an eye on that. So just before we move on to the last section, obviously this wasn't a Premier League game, but this was something that was pulled up by certainly by Sky Sports in the lead up to the game. And just to take this in a little bit, lads, and just to get some comments on this. I mean, this is the most points per game grid of Eddie Howe versus, basically Newcastle United management royalty in Kevin Keegan and Sir Bobby Robson. And you can see there, Mark, 36 games, 2 points per game. He's ahead of both KK and Bobby. Just before we move on, a little bit of praise for just what a job this man has done, mate. Incredible, isn't it?
I cannot praise him enough. He's done an exceptional job. When you consider the rocky start that he had, that first run from when he joined through to after Christmas and after the Cambridge game, it looked curtains, didn't it? At times, what was the stat we used last week in that December? There were more goals scored in the December than you conceded this season up until the Sheffield Wednesday game. So the turnaround and the work that he's put in, the changes that he's had on the players, and we've talked about this, for months, but it just shows you what an exceptional coach Eddie Howe is, and the job he's done has been completely phenomenal. It's just I can't, like I say, I cannot praise him enough.
Okay. And Carl, is Eddie Howe responsible for Joe Linton's turnaround, or was it really Steve Bruce, like Kieran Dyer said on TalkSport, man?
I'm not even going to respond to that.
So that's 2 in a week then, because that's Kieran Dyer claiming that Steve Bruce was responsible for Joe Linton, and Steve Bruce claiming that he was responsible for Eddie Howe. So
yeah. I think Kieran Dyer got a phone call just as he was having his breakfast before he went to TalkSport, and it was Steve Bruce, and he said, "How's the bacon, Kieran? Just when you're on, just say it was me that turned Joe around. Would you, Big Joe?" And he put the phone down.
I think the thing is with shows like that in some of the other YouTube channels that we're up in competition against, they say controversial things to get people to bite. Whereas I think like it's just insane really to think that, like Mark said before, we've spoke about this so many times. Like Eddie Howe done a brilliant job at Bournemouth. You know, he got sacked before they got relegated, because I think he'd even admitted himself on that Intensity podcast that he'd gone a little bit stale. He'd been there like 9 years or whatever it was, straight from, you know, retiring injured as a player. I think that year or 18 months or whatever he had out the game has absolutely done him the world of good. And the fact that he went and obviously studied Simeone, to me, we are like Atletico Newcastle is how I see it. And we're going to be we've already got all that teams fans moaning like the likes of Arsenal and Liverpool, saying that we're the like time wasters of the league and that, and it's like it's just been reinvented. It's just brilliant. It's just brilliant. It's pissing them all off, and it's all
funny coming from. Sorry, mate. Go on.
I was going to say it's down to Eddie Simeone.
Funny Arsenal moan, because they spent an entire decade just being shithouses, really, didn't they? So that's quite humorous. But there was one thing that Kieran Dyer did say, funny enough, ex-Newcastle United centre-half Jonathan Woodgate, apparently he's doing his coaching badges with Kieran Dyer, and he went to go watch Eddie Howe, and apparently he turned around, he was blown away. He just said Eddie Howe is a master tactician. He says it isn't just front foot football. He said it's everything. Absolutely everything. So yeah, unbelievable. We'll comment there from Stephen saying Dyer's been in TalkSport. It's on YouTube praising Eddie. Yeah, I've just been saying that, Stephen. Yeah, that he was saying he's a tactical genius, and he mentioned that story about Jonathan Woodgate. But yeah, he did let himself down with the Bruce comments, mate. Come on, we can't let that one slide. But
I think with Eddie Howe though as well, he comes across when he's talking. Obviously, he is really, really clever, but when you put him on the spot, when you put him on the spot with something, he acts a little bit dumb. Like he goes, I can't remember what I said to the team at half time. Well, of course you will. And again, with that high performance thing, what I liked is he had all this stuff up there, and then he wrote it all. Then he started writing it all down. Then he started putting it into all these categories where he goes, I haven't done that since 1998. I'll bring it out and, you know, reintroduce it or tweak it or whatever. So if Alex Ferguson's saying he's one of the best up-and-coming managers to look out for, then who are we to say otherwise?
Exactly. I'm with you, Davey. I'm not a fan of Dyer either. I'd never forgive him about what he did to Sir Bobby Robson. Roger's saying, here's the thing. I said to my mate last night, as much as I love trips, we could do another dead ball kick. And well, interesting. Yeah, we'll come on to that in the transfer talk, Roger. But just to finish on Eddie Howe, you're right, Carl. He plays dumb a little bit just to jump away from the subject. I think Eddie Howe's sock draw is probably better tactically sorted than fucking Steve Bruce's teams, to be fair. So I think he knows exactly what he's doing every single time he talks. But just moving on to something a little bit more lighthearted. Eddie Howe was in the dressing room when Sky Sports nipped in after we won this game. And Big Dan Byrne was in the dressing room, and there was loads of banter going around. And we've called this the new Geordie dancer. And any Newcastle fans who know what we're talking about will know this. So Big Dan Byrne got up, and we haven't got the video, but he got up. I don't know why he got up. I don't know if anyone dared him to get up or whatever it was. And he got up and he did this crackers dance. And the only thing I can think it looked like was, you know, that big red thing that blows in the wind, like outside the car parks. There, it looked a little bit like one of them, didn't it? But he did this crackers dance that he looked like some kind of massive lava lamp the way he was moving. I was quite impressed for a lad that size to move with such sweetness and mobility.
Not the first
time. Me.
Absolutely, and his teammates were absolutely pissing themselves. Apparently, it was from Fortnite, but I'm an old bastard, so I don't know that. But Mark,
ask the kids.
Ask the kids.
I'll ask the kids.
I've got Fortnite. They're going to do all this fancy thing on Fortnite when you're waiting to go into the game. But it's not the first time he's done a bit of a jig when he's scored. So he's got form.
He's got previous, but we thought it was funny because the word Geordie Dancer has been used quite a lot. And if anybody's a bit too old to remember this mad bastard on the right hand side who used to dance before the games in the vault, I believe it was.
It was in the vault.
In the big market, yeah. They used to even dance it. It's Grey Street sometimes on the Monument. I don't even know where he is. If anyone knows where the Geordie Dancer is, we could do a Netflix documentary on that. Where is the Geordie Dancer? He's passed the torch on to Big Dan Burn.
I tell you what, as well, Chris, he could never kick with his other foot because every time he tried to kick with his other foot, he would fall down. So in the vaults, when I used to go in, God, this is years ago. It's over 20 years ago. He could never seem to kick with his other foot. So he'd do all this jig, just like put it out a little bit, and then the other one would fly up, but then he could never do that because he'd fall over. So
technically, Mickey Almiron's the new Geordie Dancer because he can't kick with his other foot.
No,
so is he the new Geordie Dancer then, mate? We're getting confused here, but absolutely. Well, we've got some comments covered in there. Mark's gone there. We've lost him on the his broadband must have died. So we've got Ian in the house. Good to see you, Ian. Yeah, Roger, he did look like a human noodle. I must admit, the human noodle, as Ash says there. He claimed he was imitating Jacob Murphy. Yeah, I think Jacob Murphy likes to dance. Oh, the Macam Mover, he was called. Do you remember him?
Carl? Yeah, he was. It was that was on Soccer AM. That had a dance song. The Geordie Dancer.
I remember. I do remember. It was class. David saying, how the hell did we score 2 goals from the left? I think Howe and Mad Dog are taking the piss via amazing coaching and shit house. I mean, to be fair, what I love about the balance between Tyndall and Howe, I think that's why we're playing so well as an overall side, Carl, isn't it? Because Tyndall does the defensive side and Howe, I think, does the attacking side. And I think, when you look at these great teams over the years, even Ferguson, as you referenced before, Ferguson's best spell was when he had good coaches organising his defence, wasn't it? And you need that inside.
I think you can't discount Graham Jones from that as well.
Yeah, he's done a great job as well.
He's obviously, when he came in, when Bruce was there, because when you think about it now, he's probably one of the only ones left really from that. But he came in, and even when he first came in, you could see the difference in the team when Bruce was there. And Bruce didn't like that because he thought, who's this upstart coming in? But I think the coaching staff, all 30 plus of them, are all doing an amazing job. To be honest with you. So
Mark's just dropping the messages there. He's having to move computers. But Ash, wash your mouth out. How dare you praise a Macam on this show? Watch it. We'll end up letting the sex bots in before you, mate, if you keep having chat like that in the banter, mate. I'll tell you what. Ian's saying that the atmosphere was amazing last night. Yeah, only beaten by the Arsenal game. Absolutely class. Lee says Miggy actually used his right peg a couple of times last night. I started swinging my scarf again. To be fair, the scarves as well, Carl. I was lucky enough to go to Shearer's testimonial. And it was a game I don't think I'll ever forget. I mean, the atmosphere that night is almost becoming a weekly occurrence now at Newcastle United. But I remember the atmosphere that night, and I remember swinging my scarf. And there was a guy next to me, he'd come all the way down from Scotland, right? And he wasn't even a Newcastle fan. Somebody had got him a ticket because he said he was a Shearer fan. He'd loved Shearer all his career, and he'd come to watch Shearer play. And obviously, he was knackered at the time. But he turned around and he said to me, I've never seen anything like this in my life. And looking at it with the scarves and the flags, mate, as we said at the start, it's just incredible. I mean, how much better can this atmosphere get, mate? How much better can it?
I mean, and also thanks to my mate, Richie Southern on Twitter, who's trying to get Adidas back in. It was his tweet.
He loves Adidas. Big shout out to Richie.
It was his tweet to War Flag saying, January the 10th, reenact this, that actually kicked the whole thing off.
Oh, wow, was it really? Massive respect to Richie for that. Massive respect.
When you see how, obviously in this country, we don't let pyrotechnics and all the rest of it into the grounds and stuff, but when you see some of the South American stuff and even some of the German stuff, how they're jumping up and down, from an atmosphere point of view and what they do, it's incredible. I think our atmosphere is the best in the UK in terms of generating the atmosphere, but I think we're still a way away from creating what some of the German clubs do. But in terms of, I think the noise is just incredible, and I think it's the way the stadium is as well. And it's one of them, isn't it? People are saying we need more seats, we need a bigger stadium. Like, that's the worry, isn't it? If you move, what do? There's got to be a way of adding another 10,000 onto what we've got already. And if we can, then Jesus, it'll be unbelievable.
Absolutely, yeah. Stu's right in the comments. You can tell Shay Gibbons buzzing. He can't take the smile off his face, which I just absolutely adore. I think Mark's just jumping back in there. He's gone to PC repair. Is he in? There he is. He's back. His head's down low. He's shrugged two foot and he's back. His chair's gone down. We're just going through some comments, Mark, anyway. To be fair, to coin a phrase that said Adam P's tweets go around last night, people doing the dance is hilarious. Do you know what? I don't normally watch Adam's stuff, but I'll tell you what, that was absolutely class.
You see the guy with the cone on his head?
I did. I saw Keith Downey trying to reenact it, and we've had Keith on the show. Keith's the top lad, and I'm sure Keith's got better moves in his locker than that. I think his jeans were too tight. I think that was a problem for Keith, though, that, to be fair. But I couldn't help but think when watching Adam P's tweets, mint for Adam P, fair play. But Emile Franchi, who did the fan cams for True Faith, is an absolute legend. I love Emile. He's such a top lad. And that's the one night I wished Emile Franchi was doing the fan cams to do that dance, because that would have been next level shit, that it really would have been, I must admit. But class for Adam as well. Really good for his channel as well.
It was even on BBC. It was on BBC.
He's had some great hits, and he fair play him. David saying we have a future number 9 and Isaac, absolutely. Can we add a 10? Oh, well, we're going to get stuck on this. And Makoku, you're jumping ahead to the next section, David. We'll get stuck on that as well. But we might as well move in right now then. David set us up for it. So we're going to talk a little bit about transfer talk, if my key would actually work properly. So transfer talk is the next thing we're talking about. So we'll stick with Maddison then, Mark, as you just dive back in. We'll stick with Maddison. So as Carl mentioned at the start, Sky betting odds have dropped down to evens from the sign for Newcastle now. That doesn't always mean anything, as PK rightly pissed all over on it in our chat group. And PK is the resident gambler. Bet responsibly. So if anyone will know, PK will know. But do you think there's much truth in that, mate? I mean, Rodgers is very coy when he's asked about him. He's very sheepish about it. Even the other night when he was talking about it, yes, he wasn't going to make the cup tie, but then he was saying, will he be back for the Nottingham Forest game? Will he be back after that? And again, Rodgers was very, very sheepish. Do you think something may happen with Maddison in this window?
I mean, I said on Monday I doubted it. I just think that the way that the sort of the season is set up, the way that you've potentially got the worries about it, well, not worries, but I guess the concerns about FFP, it might be a transfer window too soon for that move. It depends on how the deal's structured. But if you're going to take the next step, what better player to bring in than somebody who's absolutely proven at that level? He's a goal and assist machine over the previous couple of years, especially in he's got 20 goals and 13 assists in the last 2 Premier League seasons. That's not even including this season where he's got another 7 goals and 4 assists already. So the man creates chances, he creates goals. He's good from a set piece. He's good with penalties. One of the comments before was on about bringing in somebody to kind of not take over, but give another option at set pieces from trips. I mean, he just seems perfect, and he gives you that double threat because he can play in the middle and he can play further forward, so he can do the job that Willock and Joe Linton are doing, and do it from the other side. So you can almost kind of do the same thing that they're doing on the left, but then do it on the right with Miggy and perhaps Maddison being interchangeable that side as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, Tielemans has been mentioned as well this window call. I think we all agreed in our chat group that he was a bit poor. I mean, Leicester were dreadful in general. He was probably the best of a bad bunch. I mean, he did have a couple of moments where I think he hit a shot on the outside of his foot that just kind of went a little bit wide. I mean, for the price of Tielemans, would he be worth a gamble this window? Do you think he would fit into our team, or do you think it's more kind of if you're going to go to Leicester, Maddison's your man and that's it?
I said on the group chat last night, I think he's already got his eye on a movie into Europe. I think he's already pretty much which is why he's playing for Leicester and he's not that bothered about playing against us or another Premier League club, because I think he'll get decent money abroad. I think he's got high enough stock level. And he probably just wasn't allowed to play last night because they did have 5 or 6 out. And I think what Mark said before, I think Maddison would be the perfect foil, I think, for that. If you were to get one player on this January transfer, but one, is he fit enough to, because he's been in, with his knee injury? And I just think also as well, I think it might be a transfer window too soon. In terms of, it might be the summer. I think for that. And if you listen to Ashworth last night, he said about January and about if the right player is available for the right price, they'll look at it. But if not, they'll move on to another target. It's not about just having one target, which I thought was interesting. But then in the flip side, he also said that they've already got a plan for the summer. So I think they've already identified a couple of players like the one in the summer where they will look to move.
Yeah, that's an interesting one from Lee. I assume he means Maddison. I mean, I think it would give you options, Lee, wouldn't it? In terms of, if Joe was to drop back into that midfield, do you sacrifice Willock and Longstaff and have Willock's legs to come on, maybe to run at tired legs with 20 minutes to go or something like that, or do you push Willock further up, in the front three, or bring Maddison to the front three? It is a tricky one. I think if you're going to go out and buy a player like Maddison and drop the level of money on it's going to take to get him, I don't say he walks in the team, because I don't think anybody walks in this team anymore, not the way we're playing. You've got to earn the shirt. But I do think Maddison's quality and ability, and I do think he's got a little bit of flexibility as well of where he can play. I think we've only seen him play one spot really for Leicester. But I think if you put him around better players, I think you could pull out wide. I think you could drop in holes behind strikers. I think you could play through the middle. If you give him a chance as well. I think he's got that quality in his locker. So for me, I think he'd be a great addition. But there is another player that's come on the radar for the transfer rumours, and I've just pulled up the stats slide that the Mark's super duper computer bashed up. We did a rumour has it on this young lad. It's Yusufa Moukoko, who plays for Borussia Dortmund. If everyone doesn't know who this lad is, he's been in the Dortmund academy. He actually made his debut coming on for Erling Haaland. So that tells you the kind of the pressure that was there. But the kid is electric, Mark, isn't he? I mean, you get these players that burst onto the scene, 18 years old. In our country, as I said, rumour has it, we had Michael Owen, we had Wayne Rooney. This kid, Mark, seems to have it all, doesn't he? He's got movement, he's got quick feet, he's good in the air, he can score goals, he's got pace. At 18 years old, do you think that this lad would come straight into the side? Would he be a starter if we were to get him?
Well, you look at the way he's playing, you find it difficult to suggest that he wouldn't. But again, if he was to come now, he's not going to just come straight into the side. But I think as long term, he's the most likely to come in and play. He's just exceptional. He is just brilliant. He has pretty much everything in his locker, and to be that effective, that young, and that quickly into the side, he's done phenomenally well. When you look at his first introduction into the Dortmund side at 2020, 2021, he only played about 420 minutes of football. I think he scored 3 goals at 16. So he's just got bags and bags of talent, and the fact that he's out of contract in the summer, and supposedly today, the rumor was that he's turned down another contract offer from Dortmund. I think it was rumored to be in the region of about £5.5 million a year that he's turned down. So I mean, if you can bring him in, I mean, it's that. Again, we go back to this, looking at the players that they're young, they've got plenty of room to grow. I mean, he's already up here, and he can still get better.
It's a great comment from Tommy there as well, isn't it? Yeah, the long-term replacement for Wilson, Carl. That's a good shout, isn't it?
That's exactly what I was going to say, because obviously the problem with Wilson is we've all said in our group chat for a number of weeks now that he still doesn't look right. He still doesn't look fit enough. And I think them stats are quite deceiving, what Mark just had up there, because if you actually look at his development through the Borussia Dortmund Academy, he's actually scored 156 goals or something like that in 146 games. In one particular season for the under-17s, he scored 80-odd goals and about 40-odd games in the under-17s bit.
Yeah.
He was doing 2 a game. So his stats are incredible. But as I say, I don't think they're going to spend 150k a week on someone like that right now, who, bearing in mind, you've got Isak as well.
True.
And we've also got Wilson, and we've also got Chris Wood. I know what people think of Chris Wood, but we've also got, we're going to have to move people on. And if it was me and you were bringing someone like him in, then he would be battling, obviously, the other 2 guys, and Wilson might, at his age now, drop down.
Possibly. I mean, to be fair to Moukoko as well, he's been described as like the next Pele and all sorts of nonsense. But when you say them goals, Carl, you can see why he's been described as that kind of a player, because he's just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I know you're saying they're not going to give 150 grand a week, but Dan Ashworth did say if the right player's available, and if this kid is the next Mbappe off the line, so to speak, or Haaland, and you can get him, and all it's going to take is to pay the kid 150 grand a week, and he wants to come and play in the Premier, you're going to do it, because the kid is one of the most exciting prospects in world football. So, I mean, it's really exciting. I like the fact Ashworth came on, Mark, as well, and he was a bit what was the word? He's a bit flirtatious, wasn't he, about what we could or couldn't do, and I think some of the journalists picked it up. I think Craig Hope said that he thinks that Newcastle will be late movers in the window. So Newcastle are almost holding their nerve until somebody bends or breaks. Maybe Leicester, if they go, listen, we're going to be screwed. We're going to lose Maddison for half the price. We'll do your deal. We'll sell him for 45 million, and then we go, right, deal done, and he comes. Do you think that's probably going to be what happens, the way that Ashworth was talking?
It's shrewd business ethics, isn't it, from the club to or shrewd business model even to kind of delay and put a little bit of pressure back on the selling side to go, well, we've got options, we can go elsewhere. We're not going to be held over a barrel like the club's probably been before to pay what you want. We're going to pay what we think is right. Just go back to Moukoko, where you talked about 150 grand. I mean, it is an awful lot of money. It's only 7.8 million a year.
If you get them for free.
Now, for a player of that quality,
40-50 million quid, yeah,
easily. If you even on a 5-year deal, you're talking it being under 40 million. That's well worth it, in my opinion, for a player of that quality. I guess it's a risk. He's only 18, but the sky's the limit for the kid. So for that sort of value, 150 grand is nothing in that regard, because you've saved a fortune in terms of transfer fee.
Yeah, I mean, it will be interesting. We'll have a lot of moves, I'm sure, maybe towards the end of the window. We're going to need a left back as well, because Dan Burn's going to be the new number 10, so we'll have to sort that out at the end of it, really, as well.
I think,
so go on, Colin.
One thing to add as well, Newcastle's in a much different position this January than what they were last January. We had to act quick last January because we needed reinforcements to stay in the Premier League, and I think exactly what Mark said before, and Dan Ashworth is very, very smart in what he said, has said that, that's why we've got, option X, Y, and Z. We'll tell them that we want to negotiate with this player. If the deal's not right, we'll walk away. And I genuinely think that we're already having those conversations with those clubs on player X, Y, and Z. And it'll be one of those ones where it'll be a late move, and it'll be structured in the right way. And I think that's the right thing to do, so they don't get ripped off. And I don't think we've been ripped off. Yes, we paid 25 million quid for Chris Wood, but that was because he had a release clause. However, we paid 10 million quid for Pope. So if you throw 35 million quid into the equation for Pope and Wood, then I think that's a great deal.
Honestly, that 25 million quid for Chris Wood is just, I feel like we're being sold a knackered motor in the auto trader. Honestly, it pisses me off, that. Tommy said he wondered, could Howe convert Wood into a full-back or a centre-back? I don't think Moses could convert Wood into anything, Tommy. That fucker could part the sea.
He's certainly not mobile enough for a full-back. I mean, you could make probably an average centre-back out of him, but or a goalpost.
Brilliant.
That would be a miracle.
Yeah, I think Chris Wood would be a good lollipop man because he just has to stand there and hold his arms out, doesn't he? So maybe his career outside of football could help young kids cross the road safe and sound. So maybe Chris Wood can do that. So we're just going to wrap up with a little preview for Fulham. We've got Fulham up next, Carl. It's St James's Park. We've got a big Evermore squad heading up to the Tune that day. So it should be a good day full of some libations and banter.
Yes, I'm coming up.
Good man.
I'm up there on the Saturday playing poker at my mate's house, and then I'm going to go into Newcastle. If anybody's watching and they can get us a ticket, please let us know. I've put on the spares. I've even rang the club shop today because there's one ticket available, but it's in the family enclosure and they won't sell us it. I'm like,
we were lucky.
I know. I'm looking for a ticket if anybody wants to be kind and get us a ticket. But yeah, I didn't realise this, but Fulham play Chelsea tomorrow night.
Oh.
So I'm sure that's
right. Knackered.
Just double check that is correct. I'm just going to check there, but I'm sure.
Oh, they do, yes.
I
forgot about that.
So literally, they've got basically 48 hours to come up to Newcastle and basically play us when we've had obviously 2 more days rest or whatever.
Because this was the second game of the FPL week, and everybody, well, not everybody, but loads of people captained Mitro because it was a double game week, and then he got booked in the first game and misses tomorrow night. Yeah, I completely forgot about that.
So, but Mitro's good for the weekend though. He's not going to play tomorrow night. He's good for the weekend.
He's suspended tomorrow just on bookings, so he'll be fine for Sunday.
Well, Lee's just making sure we know what the plan is. We know what the plan is, Lee. We might see if we can get them to sponsor the channel because we advertise them pretty much all the time, don't we, old Lurkos? So just to get your take on this call, do you think this is a Newcastle United 3 points again, mate? Do you think we're going to take them apart? They're no mugs. They're 7th in the Premier League. They've done all right. Mitro's in decent form.
If you look at the first game when we played them down at the Craven Cottage, obviously the sending off changed the game massively. Then we end up romping away, and that was obviously goal of the season territory for Miggy with that outside of his boot volley. But I think it'll be a tough game. We all predicted that we would beat Leeds by a comfortable score. So for me, I'm not really going to say much in terms of what the prediction's going to be like. I think it'll be a good game. I'm just looking at them now. They do concede. They've conceded 27 goals in 18 games and they've scored 30. So they've scored, they've only scored 2 less than us in the same amount of games. So they're no, like you say, they're no mugs. It'll just be interesting to see sort of how they're going. I think they've won the last 3 as well on the bounce.
Yeah,
so
good
form. Exactly. They've won the last 4 in all competitions. They've only conceded 7 in the last 9 games since they beat Villa. And in the last 4, they've only conceded 1. They're a team that is performing well. Carl, you're absolutely. I think it's not a gimme, is it? I think early in the season they were a much poorer form. They've found a route. They've found a method of playing, and it's working for them. And they're a much tougher prospect than they were, but it's at St James's. It's going to be in front of a brilliant crowd again, a side that's massively in form. I think you've got to be looking at 3 points, haven't you?
Well, just a bit there. So you're right, Mark, everything you've just said there. So we've got Les now. It's good to see you, Les. Roger made a good point there. Now, I'm just looking at Alexander Mitrovic's stats this season. So 15 Premier League games played, 11 goals, 2 assists, 5 yellow cards. He wouldn't be Mitrov wasn't a yellow card. But as Roger says, we have a certain lad playing for us called Sven Botman, and he has massive pockets, Mark. Is he going to stick Alexander Mitrovic in that pocket or what? What do you think, pal?
Set of keys, mobile phone, wallet, and Alexander Mitrovic. There you go. That's my prediction for this.
Yes. Carl, what's your take? Do you think he's going to mark him out?
The thing is, when you look at the Sheffield Wednesday game, the reason why he didn't put anybody's in his pockets was because he pretty much had to manage that back for himself.
He did.
We discussed it. We discussed what difference Fabian Schär makes to him alongside of him. You seen when Trippier came on against Sheff Wed, the change straight away as well. But when we've got that solid back 5 or the solid back 5, then I think you'll mark many a striker out of the game. you know, the guy's come on leaps and bounds since he left Newcastle. You know, I never rated him at Newcastle, but he's doing well now. So, but he's got a bit of a temper, hasn't he? So if it's not going for him, then he's also prone to a sending off, isn't he?
Yeah, he's calmed down a lot over the years. I think that season the Championship did him the world a good. But as Lee says there, I'm with Lee. We hammered at the Cottage. They were in form then. They'll be mentally scarred by that. But I love Tommy's comment there as well that Lascelles was cutting holes in his pockets. Absolutely, he couldn't keep his car keys in his pocket. But I just think for me, I think we'll be too strong for him. I think we're coming off massive euphoria of obviously getting to the cup semi-final. We've got players coming back, getting stronger, more time on the training pitch, more minutes. We'll see a bit more of Isak at the weekend. We'll maybe see a bit more Maxi at the weekend. If Wilson is off, if Wilson's a little bit funny, then for me, I think that Isak's ready made to step in. Maybe Howe starts Isak, we don't know. But for me, Mitro's key to them, and everything goes through him. And Fulham have got some good players, no doubt about that. But if he's nullified, then that nullifies them massively. And I think our back five is just way too strong to be worrying about him. I mean, our back five effectively marked Erling Haaland out of the game, apart from a couple of times where they just let him go. And he's the best striker in the league, arguably in the world, as number 9. So, yeah, for me, I'm going for a Newcastle win as well, lads. I think we're going to take it home, 3 points, keep that race for the top 4 going, and just end a good week, really, I suppose.
It's. I mean, as well, if we're serious about challenging, like for the top 4, and I know we've mentioned this before, we're on a great run, we're on a great roller coaster ride with the club as it is as a whole. Last night was probably the highlight of the season, if you like, but the run of fixtures around us at the moment starts to get quite interesting, because you've got the Manchester derby on Saturday, you've got and then I think on the Sunday, you've got Tottenham versus Arsenal. So if we can all of a sudden get 3 points against Fulham, and you'd expect City to beat Man United, or even if they draw, and then Arsenal beat Tottenham, all of a sudden you've potentially opened up a bit of a gap again into third, solid third. So, and that sort of takes away Man United's game in hand, and also we pull further away from hopefully Tottenham. If they drop points. So I think it's a huge weekend in terms of us getting 3 points, and then hopefully if the other results, which we'll know by on Saturday, on Sunday when kickoff comes, because as I say, there's a couple of big games on the Manchester derbies on. In fact, Man United's at home, so they're playing well, so that you never know, they could take points off City, and then Tottenham are at home against Arsenal. But Tottenham are a bit hot and cold at home, aren't they? So,
Well, Tottenham are hot and cold in general, aren't they? That's just Tottenham all over the bat. But just one last comment there, Lee saying that one thing that can get past our defence is pace, but he's as fast as Mitrovic. Great comment. I hope you're as fast to the bar at Locos, Lee, at the weekend. So we'll wait to see that, mate. But that's us all wrapped up then for another Evermore, guys. Thank you so much to everybody in the comments for jumping in. It really helps everything flow. And as Mark mentioned at the start, and I mentioned at the start, if you're new to the channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. Come and join us. There's loads of room for you. All free content here. We just love talking about this brilliant club. We're hoping for 3 more points at the weekend. Keep the top 4 dreams alive. Let's keep supporting our team of McCoy United. We'll catch you later. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, everyone.
Take care, guys. See ya.